Hey, warriors. So, I want to talk about witchcraft because I think it's coming back in, a pretty big way. Um, and I don't mean like this dumb Halloween Hollywood versions. I'm talking about, the real reason, that tarot, ritual, spell work, in which language are everywhere right now because I don't think that it's a trend. I think it's more of a response. And I think if you don't know what's happening, you can get lost in it. You know what I mean? Um, for a long time, spirituality was packaged one way. And that was, sit still, be quiet, try harder, and wait for salvation, you know? But modern, witchcraft is about something very different. It's about participating, engaging, working with energy instead of waiting for permission. You know, I think people are exhausted. Well, I know they're exhausted with systems that didn't never listen to us, didn't protect us, didn't empower us, that kind of thing, you know? So they're turning to practices that give them agency, you know? Tarot, that's intention, with structure. Um Rituals, intention with embodiment. Spells, that's focused attention paired with belief and action. And I just think that at its core, witchcraft, is about relationship, with nature cycles, emotion, energy. And I think younger people understand this. You know, they're I just don't think that they are interested in being told, what to believe. No offense, but like we were. You know what I mean? We let people tell us everything. And it turned out to all be bullshit. You know? And I think that the younger kids see this, you know, and they're just not interested in moving forward like that. You know, um they want to experience the truth, not inherit it or inherit a bunch of bullshit, you know what I mean, like we did. Um and I think modern witchcraft offers that kind of thing, the symbolism without the sermon. um Cycles instead of commandments, intuition instead of all these authority figures, that kind of thing, you know? Um, and most importantly, it honors emotion and embodiment. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Maybe for me. You know what I mean? At least for me, anyways. Um, I don't know. The younger, I don't know. I just think that I just think that the younger kids, you know, they they're where we're finally at, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They don't want to escape reality. You know, they want to learn how to work with it. And that's, I think, where the witchcraft is coming in. And I mean, it's not just young people either. It's us, it's people our age. Um, you know, not and that's the thing though, that there is a problem because not everything labeled witchcraft right now is grounded. Do you know what I mean? um I think it's commodified, it's performative, like the uh crystals sold as, shortcuts, spells that these influencers are marketing as these instant fixes, tarot used to avoid responsibility instead of facing the truth. Real witchcraft isn't about control. It's about attunement. And I think that a lot of people are learning, they're starting to understand that type of thing. But if you are using magic, to avoid healing, and I think a lot of people did go this route, that's not power. That's bypassing, and I think they're starting to, realize this. And I think also, at its deepest level, witchcraft, is learning, I don't know, how energy moves. I think that's a lot of people, we all know what name witchcraft has on it because of all the lies. But that's all it really is, is how energy moves. Respecting cause and effect. I don't know, honoring timing, and consequence. And I think that the younger people, I think they understand this more than, we did. Well, they've had a fresh hand, you know what I mean? They haven't had to go through, cipher through all these damn lies to get to, the facts. But, I think that's why so many of them are gifted, if you will, which I don't like calling it that. I like calling it talented, but I think that's why so many of them are so intuitive. Do you know what I mean? Because they're listening more instead of forcing like we did. I don't know. But it's not about manifesting whatever you want. And I've talked about this before. It's about becoming the person, who can hold whatever's coming next. And I think a lot of kids, they understand that also. I also think that, old witches knew this. I think that, they understood restraint, not entitlement like we're seeing all over the fucking place. They worked with seasons, not ego. I don't know. I think we're leaving, an era. I know we are. We're leaving the era of external authority, that blind belief, that spiritual outsourcing shit. And we're moving into an era of self-trust, energetic literacy, personal responsibility. And it's about fucking time, I don't know. I think that witchcraft is rising because people, they're reclaiming their inner compass. I think it's an awesome thing. I mean, a lot of people might judge me for that, but I mean, I really do. And I don't think that it's about dominating, or escaping. I just think it's about participating in life consciously. I think that's why, because you don't need to call yourself a witch. You don't need tools. You don't need the labels. If you're listening deeply, moving with cycles, respecting energy, you're acting with intention, you're already doing witchcraft. I don't think that I know, you know, that the magic, was never the ritual. Do you know what I mean? It was always the awareness behind it, right? I don't know. I think this revival, we're not going backward. We're remembering what was lost when our intuition was fucking shamed, and our power was outsourced. I think modern witchcraft is reclamation, I just think that with, like all power, it comes with responsibility. You need to understand that. But I think that's all I need to talk about. Love you.